shoestring, I'm forever in the loop. And squad up, baby, I'm forever with that group. And that chopper put them hula hoop holes through your coupe. I'm all about the guap, my hustle is the truth. Papaya on my mama, miss you like a loose tooth. And ever since you left, ain't been right with the group. And I still check on moms, miss your name in the booth. And your sister had a baby, I just got introduced. Like last week at the mall, I was shopping for boots.
Kind of like kidnapped and held hostage by a bunch of people, and I was sexually abused with another kid. We were forced to perform in child pornography while they were injecting us with all kinds of like drugs and everything to keep us hostage.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Okay.
Yeah, I did. A lot of people that know my channel know that story.
Oh,
I did a video on Prison Break Raw called My War Story.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, me and this kid, we were held hostage for like a couple of weeks, and I don't know what happened. Like he died or something, and it was my chance to get away.
Right.
So I had got away from that, and my father had, you know, caught up with me later on and took me to the hospital. They pumped my stomach out, and you know, went through the whole deal about, you know, they were telling my dad, yeah, we think your son has been abused. We think he was abused. You know, we don't really know like what kind of abuse, but we think he was abused. And he tried to get me into counseling. I wouldn't, but I finally told him what was up. So we tried to go to the cops, and the cops weren't doing nothing about it.
Right.
You know, they didn't believe it. Even the police report that they were writing out, they just started crumpling it up, throwing it in the trash, because I didn't remember where I was taken. You know, because the guy that had, you know, taken me off the streets, you know, your viewers can go back and watch this video. I won't take up the whole time by talking about it on this, because it's a long, it's a long story.
Yeah, you can watch it on your channel. That's good.
Yeah, but to make a long story short, you know, the police didn't do nothing about it, but my father and grandfather decided they were going to exact family justice and deal with it themselves. So they pretty much murdered one of these cats. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
So after that, you know, just by dealing with, like, it was real at that point in time. It was real. I knew that I was different. That whole experience had made me different. You know, I went through a lot of the post-traumatic stress disorder, even though back then, nobody even knew what PTSD was. That was like a later saying. But I went through a lot of that stuff. I just became very, like, cold, very, very angry, and hatred towards the entire world, the system, the establishment, the government, all of it. You know, I didn't have no use for none of it. So I just went full-fledged into just being a complete outlaw. And, you know, I had some friends, like I said, I had a couple of friends that were like connected with like Crip gang. I had a lot of friends that were like, you know, connected to various different vitals and stuff like that, suicidal friends. My boy, like I said, whose family was Inglewood family. Like, we formed a little crew.
Okay.
Like this is way back, you know, when I'm like 14, 15 years old. 16, we formed a little crew, and we called it UTK, United to Kill. And we were just like, we were like straight EBK, man. We would go down and bomb on your neighborhood. You know, you could say we were taggers, but we weren't taggers. We were like probably the first tag bangers. Right. If you remember the saying, tag bangers back in the day, because you're close to my age.
Right.
We were like tag bangers back before there were tag bangers.
Right.
So we would go up and bomb up in people's neighborhoods, and we'd be strapped. We'd have like little MAC-10s and fucking, you know, straight Glocks and Berettas and whatnot, sawed-off shotguns. And if people would roll up on us like, "Hey, fool, what the fuck you doing?" we were just straight dumping on them. And like, we was driving in people's, you know, we had about full strength. We had maybe a little bit over about 15 heads at any given time. And it was all like the misfit kids that had grown up in different vitals, different neighborhoods, whatnot, that didn't like really kind of like didn't get jumped into their neighborhoods. You know, maybe they had an older brother, wouldn't let them get jumped in, or, you know, their father wouldn't let them get jumped in, or maybe they didn't want to get jumped in, whatnot. But, you know, we were about all this. But when it really started to kind of fall apart is when my boy Jermaine had, you know, he started getting closer to Inglewood family as he was getting older, and he got smoked. You know, he got smoked by I want to say he got smoked by like either Shotgun Crip or Hoover or Eight Trays.
Right.
One of those gangs that have a lot of beef with like the IFs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that took him out of the picture, and that was like my second homie ever in life that I had actually known to die. You know, one of my homies, I watched him get murdered in a drug deal when I was out running the streets. I never, to this day, don't know what happened to him or his body. But, you know, Jermaine's funeral, you know, going to his funeral was like one of the very first funerals I ever had to go to as a kid. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of started breaking up, but the funny thing is like we used to wear red. We used to wear like a lot of red. And people would laugh and think that, you know, because like I said, Jermaine was like a lot of, you know, he was a cool dude, man. He was that guy that, you know, he's a light-skinned brother, man. So, you know, he had colored eyes. He had kind of like blondish hair, you know what I mean? They called him Goldie. Yeah.
Right.
So, like, you know, automatically right off the rip, you know, a lot of girls like, we go to Knott's Berry Farm, we go to Magic Mountain or whatnot, you know, like he'd be pulling in some of the girls, and we were good-looking kids too, some of us, so we'd get our share. But, yeah, man, he was like impressionable. So, like the color red and everything, you know, we didn't look at it as like we were wannabe Bloods or nothing like that. We looked at it as like the color red meant that we were killing everybody.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We were making people bleed. So if we were united to kill, we kill somebody. What color is their blood?
Absolutely.
It's red. So we looked at like the way we dressed as not being flamed up, but we looked at the way we dressed as we were covered in the blood of our enemies. And who is our enemies? Everybody's our enemies. Everybody.
That flamed up.
Yes, but you know, like back in them days, we're talking like the late 80s and early 90s, you know, you had different neighborhoods and stuff that, you know, some neighborhoods wore red, you know, some neighborhoods wore, you know, different colors.
Some neighborhoods wore orange, some wore purple.
Yeah.
Like, I know about some of the LA gangs. Yeah. Y'all have some colors. So, okay, so
and yeah. Well, back then, like, you know, after like right around the movie Colors came out, there was a lot of like neighborhoods that are in Orange County. Like you got a gang called Little Hood that's in Santana. It's Avadio right now, so it's Little Hood Trece right now, right? But back then, what a lot of them try to bury as their dark past is that neighborhood used to be called Little Hood Crips.
Oh, is that right?
And all them same Mexican kids that are all now essays with Sureno and everything all on them. Back in those days, they had Jerry curls, man, and they were wearing LA Raider hats and talking about cuz. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
when I tell people a lot of this stuff, you know, people try to tell me, well, you're like a confused kid or something. No, I'm not a confused kid, man. I'm a kid from the streets. And back in those days, like things were a lot different than they are now.
Right.
You know, you had a lot of gangs that are all over LA that are tag bangers that their neighborhoods like K-Dubs and Cams and many other neighborhoods that are out there used to be tagger gangs.
Right.
You know? A lot of these different
I believe that.
different gangs.
Yeah. I mean, why
they were taggers or they were breakers or some of them were party crews.
Right.
Some of them were rebels.
Yep.
You know, and that's why I tell people, like, people don't realize, because if you grew up in the 80s and the early 90s, you know, not only would have Dub C might have fucked your mama, but you also had experienced a shift in a lot of different things. Did you catch that? Did you catch that reference?
Yeah.
You remember Dub C's song?
Yep.
If you was born in the 80s or the early 90s, I might have fucked your mama.
Yep.
Might have fucked your mama. Yeah.
Oh no, I caught it. That sounds like you just slid that in there.
Yeah. I was just wondering maybe if your followers that I shouldn't have spoiled it, but
I used to be a Dub. I had a Dub C, the Mad Circle, all that.
Yeah, but you know the thing, like what Dub C was singing about, and if you ever listen to RBX, you know RBX put out a song talking about, you know, when the race war, the feuding with Mexicans and blacks in LA started. He's like, man, I remember back in the day where we used to kick it, and you know, you come over to my house and you know, Like there was a lot of sayings like, you come over to my house and eat fried chicken, I come over to your house eating fucking frijoles and tortillas. You know what I mean? And me, I got to go to both houses and eat both, and they would come over to my house and eat hamburgers. You know? Yep. So it's like, to me, you know, like growing up in that back then, a lot of people try to say that it was more racist, but like race was a lot different back in those days.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
It's like it was a lot different back in those days, man. It's like if you were trash in the eyes of upper class society, they didn't care what color your skin was. You were just trash to them.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
But nowadays, everybody tries to fit everything into their own box and their own perception of things. But
like you said,
so like
their optics can see.
Yeah. So, like, you know, coming out of like when UTK was kind of like starting to fall apart and stuff, you know, me, like I told you, you know, I'm hard-headed, I'm a knucklehead. Like, I would still be sporting a lot of the red and everything like that. And I used to have a lot of problems with that shit, man. But, you know, like I had like a red Raider cap and stuff I used to wear all the time and shit. But it wasn't really red that we wore. It was burgundy that we wore. The color, more of what the color of real blood would look like. Not like red flamed up, but like burgundy. Right. Dark, like purplish, that purplish kind of red color is what I used to wear.
Black cherry.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I started messing with this girl up in the city of Santa Fe Springs, and you know, her dad was like involved in a lot of things and shit. And I still had a couple of my boys that, one of my homeboys was out there in Santa Fe Springs, and you know, he was running around a gang called Cataranas, or Singing Frogs. Mm-hmm. It was a Vito that was over there. And like, he was like one of my last remaining, my homies and stuff. And then I had this other homie who ran with us, and he started running with this gang in the city of Downey called Brock Street.
Okay.
Brock Street, did I say, right?
Okay.
And they were just, for a long time, they were just a small crew, and they were called the Whitewash Boys and stuff, because they grew up, like, Downey's like a pretty nice city, and most of those dudes that were from that neighborhood were like a lot of white kids, white essay types, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I started getting into where people were older gente and stuff were teaching me how to use my skin to my advantage, to where I could be just that regular inconspicuous white kid sitting on the bus or walking down the street with a backpack full of cocaine and whatnot, coming from one spot to the next, and I could just walk through all the bullshit. Like, literally, I could be walking down the sidewalk through almost any part of Los Angeles, wherever I was heading. Like, if I was going into wherever my destination was, they'd have all these gangbangers from whatever neighborhood that was all lined up, you know, their hands behind their back, and I could just walk through, and, you know, the cops wouldn't say nothing, even look at me twice. Just some random white kid. Right. Some poor white kid, you know, that's obviously not a part of all these dudes, you know. Yeah. Straight loaded up with cocaine. Like, I even, you know, it's funny, and I tell this and some people roll their eyes, but there were times where I'd walk past, like, straight traffic stops and everything with the canine dog in the back going fucking crazy as I'm walking past, because it's like metal to a magnet. Right. You know, it could smell that dope.
Oh, yeah.
Going crazy as I'm going by, and, you know, like, even me taunting him and stopping and looking at the dog, waving, and like, hey, kid, get away from that car, you know?
And you got it all in your back.
Not even one concerned of why is this dog losing its fucking mind, you know what I mean? Yeah, so, I mean,
keep it moving, man. Keep it moving.
Yeah, get out of here, kid. Get out of here, kid. You don't want to be stuck here with all these minorities.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, I learned how to use that in a lot of ways, and I learned how to be that guy, and I started to more move and lean towards it. Started getting to be like 16, 17, and then 18, more towards like the whole essay thing, and, you know, like changing a lot of my slang from a lot of the tag banger like slang that we used to have, you know, the silwag fucking bombing, you know, calling people toys and and, you know, tinkers and scribblers and stuff, to, you know, what's up, essay, what's up, homie, you know. Yeah. And going up into the system, like getting busted with my old lady's dad, you know, I'm like 18-year-old kid getting pulled over by the cops. I don't have any warrants, anything against me. Got a valid driver's license and everything, you know. And he's like, basically, I knew what my rights were. Like a lot of people get scared and they say, can I search your vehicle? And they're like, oh, yes, sir. There's nothing in here, even though it's all loaded up with dope and everything else. They're too scared to say no, but not me. I'll be like, fuck you. Fuck you going to search my car. You're going to search my car for? Get a search warrant. What did I do wrong? What did I do? Why are you pulling me over? I'd be like that. Be like, well, I pulled you over because, you know, you look suspicious. Well, like, how do I look suspicious? You know, what am I doing that's out of the ordinary? I'm just driving down the fucking street.
Right.
You know? So he'd be like, well, so you're not going to let me search your vehicle? I'm like, no, sir. He's like, all right, you on parole probation? No, sir. And he looks in the car with the flashlight. He goes, sir, you on parole probation? He's like, yeah, I'm on parole. Oh, get out. I'm searching the car.
Yep, everybody out.
So I'm just like, damn, like I'm looking at him like, damn, man, I didn't even think about that. And like, he didn't think about that either. But, you know, and he didn't even get mad that I was being arrogant because the way in his mind, what he told me when we were up in 9500 in LA County, what he started telling me is that they were going to do that regardless of how you were. So, I mean, I even told him, man, sorry, I was a dick to the cops. He's like, you weren't a dick to the cops, homie. You did it right. You know what I mean? But they searched the car, and I told them, whatever you find in that car, it's mine, because I had this dope that I was pushing. They never found the dope, but they found a strap.
Oh, okay.
And it was my homie's mom's car, but it was my homie's car.
Right.
You know, I told the story on Death's show, and all these fucking amateur detectives that were in the comments section we're like, well, he said it was his homie's car, but it was his mom, you know, this and this and that. And he's kind of contradicting himself. It's like, yeah, it's my homie's car that he's driving, but it was his mom's car. You never drive your mom's car.
It makes perfect sense. It's my mom's car, but it's mine because I don't have no license and I can't get a car in my name or none of that. So my mom put in her name, but it's my whip. That's easy math. Yeah,
you know, and I even told Death that. I said, man, you got a lot of dudes that would, you know, that are really trying hard to, you know, get that next top model spot over there at the Quantico fucking FBI training academy.
Yeah, that's easy math, man. All my cars were in other people's names, but they were still mine.
So yeah, I told the cop, and I told him straight up, I said, look, man, I don't know this guy. I just picked him up from the liquor store. I was taking him home down the streets. All I got to tell you is I don't know what you're going to find in this car because, you know, it's not registered to me, but whatever you find in this car, it's mine, my responsibility. And my girlfriend's dad was looking at me and was looking at them, you know, not really knowing what we're saying because he was way down there. And they went over to him and they said, how do you know this kid? And he said it because when we get stopped, he goes, hey, man, you don't know me. You just picked me up. And so he went with the same story, man. This fucking kid just picked me up over here, and I talked him into fucking taking me home, and you know this and this and this and that. So he's like, all right. And they searched in the car, and he came back and he goes, you wanna tell me one more time that you're responsible for everything in this car? And I said, yes, sir, everything in that car. And he's like, even this? And he pulls the fucking strap out, and he's like, put your hands behind your back. You know what I mean?
Oh,
carrying a concealed weapon in a vehicle, that's a felony, son. Now you're going to LA County, and little white boys like you're going to get your shoes taken, you're going to get this taken, you're going to get that, and, you know, I've never been to county jail before, right? So I'm just like, okay, well, you know, whatever. I wasn't even scared, man. I was just like, yeah, whatever. You're not going to, you know, scare me. And then they told my old lady's dad to keep walking, and then they were laughing. You know, and I'm like, what are you laughing about? Oh, nothing, man, nothing about you. So like I said, I get to the county jail, and I've told this story 100 times, and I'm sure you've already heard it. I get in there, and I remember talking to my uncle on the phone because he was over visiting my mom. My uncle's been all up in the state prison and everything. He's a, you know, a white boy, the wood pile, everything.
Right.
He's like, stick with your people. Mm-hmm. That's all he told me, and I didn't really know what my people were, man, because I'm from the streets, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, stick with my people. What does that mean? He goes, you understand what I mean by your people. You stick with your people. And I'm like, I don't think he's understanding where I'm coming from because he's out there from IE, you know what I mean? Yeah. Riverside. So he's like, I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I remember going in there, and I remember there was a couple of paisas in there. You know, there was a couple of like dudes that looked like homies, whatnot. And there was, you know, all these white dudes, and they were all in the front, and then all the blacks were in the back.
Right.
Together. And you know how it is in holding tanks. Everybody you automatically go to where your race is at.
Yeah.
So I just plopped a seat right down there, figured, you know, I can't go all the way down there.
Right.
You know, that probably ain't going to work out too well. So I'm going to be right here. And the next thing you know, there's this young black kid. He's walking around up there, and he's like looking at everybody's shoes and everything. You know what I mean? Like, looking at all the white people's shoes, all the white dudes' shoes, and then he comes to me, goes like that, spots my shoes because I'm from the streets. So he's like, damn, man, He's like, hey, cuz, what size of them shoes? He's putting his foot up against mine. He's got some old raggedy ass, fucking beat up ass house slippers, right? Dirty and beat up as fuck. I'm like, oh man, these are size 10s. He goes, oh, that's my size, man. Trade me. And he's already he's already sliding his shoes off, and he's like slides in front of me, And I look down at those things, and I looked over at him, and he's looking at me like, this ain't an option. You know what I mean? This ain't a choice. Like, I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. Thank you though. He's like, oh man, I'm going to the gang module, man. You ain't, you probably gonna do some wino time and get out. Your family's probably gonna bail you out. Your family got money, you white and all that. You getting bailed out. I'm gonna be in here forever, man. I'm a this, I'm a that, and I'm like, sorry, man, can't do it. And he puts the shoes back on. He doesn't say nothing. He just walks to the back. And then he's talking, and he's talking to them, and a bunch of them come over, and they're like, say, cuz, the homie says he wants your shoes. And I said, I ain't giving him shit. This dude fucking punched me. So I got up, and I'm like, well, what's up? 101. And this, this fool was like, I mean, they could have all rushed me and beat me up, but this fool was like, man, I'll take this white boy. I'm going to smack this white boy. I'm going to smack this bitch around and this and that. And we were going at it, but I'm, I could fight. I mean, I've been fighting my whole life, so I'm fighting him, and I'm getting him. And his house slipper, one of his slippers went flying off his foot, went flying into one direction, and he's, falling, and he's hitting the bench, and he lands on top of this other dude. I'm hitting him, and then they all just rushed me. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm on the ground, beat up, and I remember there was this white dude that was in there that he was sitting there talking, like, to this other white dude, and he's like, yeah, brother, fucking stabbed 5 child molesters at Chino. Fucking, I was running the unit, man. I had the keys of the whole, like, that kind of you-know-who type of talk.
Right.
That's
what I was just thinking. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, he's all got his legs crossed, and he's all sitting there like, yeah, brother, fucking, you know what I mean? I run the whole fucking OC car and all that stuff like that. And so when all that was happening, it wasn't nobody jumping up and doing shit to help me.
But nobody helped you when you got packed out.
Nobody helped me. I mean, none of the essays helped me. No Pisces helped me. And damn sure no white dudes helped me. But I didn't expect, like, homies to jump up because, they're looking at me like, these cats are probably they could be from Florencia, they could be from White Fence, they could be from fucking South Los, they could be from the Harbor area, they could be from anywhere. They're from all these different neighborhoods. They're looking at me like I'm a white kid. The white dudes that are in there, don't even give a shit about their own people most of the time anyways. And these black dudes saw me as a white dude, so I was just pretty much all on my own.
Right.
And like I'm laying there on the ground all beat up, and he's like, like get your shoes and shit like that. And I'm just looking at this dude like, fuck you, you know what I mean? But I'm beat up and that dude like looked at me, man, and I've never seen anything like this, but it happens. People get respect for you if you stand up for yourself. That's to be respected by anybody.
Facts.
So this kid looking at me, he's kind of like, all right, white boy, you know what I mean? Like, you know what? Yeah, man, fucking, you know what? Fuck it, man. Let him keep his shit. He fucking earned it. And they go up to this other white kid, motherfucker, white boy, give up your shoes. This motherfucker popped up like a jack in the box, man, ripping his feet. I don't want no problems, taking his shoes off.
Yeah.
And then they're all looking at these other white dudes everybody's focused in on what's going on.
Right.
He goes over to these other white dudes, especially that one who was talking. She's like, hey, you what's got an issue with this? And that dude looks over at me, looks up at them. He goes, I don't know that motherfucker. Well, there it is there, man. So my experience with...
It's unfortunate when your people don't stand up for you. Especially when they see something wrong happening to you. Whether it's your affiliation or not, man, I'm not going to stand by and watch. I understand I'm not going to stand by and watch no black man get took off on and dumped on and all this other stuff by a group from another race and not help him. I don't care. I don't have to know him. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck who he is, where he's from. He could be an enemy. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not gonna let that go down. And actually, the way I feel now in jail, we got jail rules. You know what I mean? Prison rules, jail rules, whatever. Now, I'm not gonna watch no man get packed out by no race and just stand and watch. Period. Like if I walk out, I was, hey man, y'all give him a 1. Give him a 1 if that's how y'all feel, or you can just fight us both. You know what I mean? It's that simple. Sorry.
Here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. Now, we all watched the movie American Me. around the same time.
Right.
I don't remember ever seeing like Blood In, Blood Out. We've watched the movie. Yeah. We watched the movie An Innocent Man with Tom Selleck.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen The Glass House. I've seen Bad Boys.
Right.
All these different movies about jail. But guess what, man?
What's this other one? What's the Netflix one? Don't forget the Shot Caller. Shot Caller.
Well, that wasn't out back in '92.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the ones we seen back in the days. Yeah.
Yeah, so like American Me is already out there around this time. I think Blood In, Blood Out was already made around this. I'm not sure. Like I don't remember seeing it back then. I remember seeing it later on in life. Right. Because it wasn't like a big thing. Wasn't like huge like American Me was.
But all these movies.
It like fucking Blood In, Blood Out was a more low budget type of a prison movie than American Me was shit all up in the theaters like Colors, But we've seen these movies, but here's the thing. And people get confused about this part of the whole thing. Well, you should have known, that like you were supposed to run White Boy and everything from the gate and all this and that. How am I supposed to know that? Check this out. We didn't have no prison YouTube genres back then. There wasn't even YouTube back then.
Right.
The only time we ever communicated fucking electronically is through the party line.
Right.
And everybody was on there like, fuck you, I'm from Florencia, fuck Florencia, this is White Fence, fuck White Fence, this is fucking Rolling 60 Crib, fuck Rolling 60 Crib, this is Inglewood Family, fuck Inglewood Family, this is fucking Hoover, you know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody fighting on a party line, and one girl in the background going, hello?
Right.
And everybody's fighting with each other, and nobody's paying attention to her, so I'm always trying to scoot through there and say, what's up, baby? Here,
what's up,
hey, shoot me your number, and like, fuck all these clowns, But, so nobody, like, people would try to tell me about prison. I remember when as a kid, you get that burnout that, he got out from doing a bunch of time and he's sitting there all institutionalized with his T-shirt wrapped around his head and everything in the neighborhood, trying to say, hey, brother, here's, like I'd be creasing my pants. And he goes, here, let me show you how to crease those. And he'd like lay them out flat and stick them under the mattress. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I need them now. I don't need them tomorrow.
I got starch and iron. Why are we sticking them under the bed now?
He's like, well, you're going to have to learn all this when you go in the joint. I go, I ain't going to the joint, man. You were dumb enough to get caught, not me. I was a smart mouth kid like that.
Yeah, right.
So going up into the jail, like, I wasn't prepared. I didn't have fucking Lockdown 23-1, Big Herc, Wes Watson, fucking Badgers heavy hitters, Big JD, NateDoggSac916, Dirty Weather, everybody telling me how to go into prison.
Right.
You know?
Right. We didn't have all this.
What I'm supposed to do when I go into prison, I didn't know what the fuck I was supposed to do. The only words of advice was about 30 seconds on a phone saying, stick with your people, and then hang up.
Right.
That's the only advice that I had.
So
I'm thinking like, well, my people on the streets are,
everybody.
People of color, man. Yeah.
Right.
People from the barrio, people, people that live on the other side in the hoods, people that were in the projects, people that were in low income apartments.
Facts.
So like, I just like smacked down on the bench thinking like, well, I'm still going to get bail. And my whole mind was thinking about bailing out. I wasn't thinking about being there long because I knew I was going to have this case beat. As soon as I get at my boy, he's going to fucking take responsibility for that strap.
Right.
One way or the other, he's going to take responsibility for that strap.
Right.
Because even my old lady's dad, and I didn't know he was in the jail at that time, even he knew that was the homie's strap, wasn't my strap. Because I would have told him, because we both asked, is there anything in this fucking car? And he said, nah, but we didn't have any cell phones back then really to call you and say, oh, man, I forgot, man, I have a strap in the car.
Right.
He was paging me, though, because I did have a pager. He was paging me. Oh, and it was putting in 911, and I'm like, should we stop? And like, no, fuck it, man. We were on our way to do something. So
let's go finish.
We'll call him later. But he was trying to page me to say, man, I left that strap in the car.
It's like a full-time job, not a kill niggas. Still got niggas doing forever in the shoe. I'm feeling like a shoestring, I'm forever in the loop. And squad up, baby, I'm forever with that group. And that chopper put